If you are trying to pull your kids away from screens without triggering a full-blown household uprising, I have something that actually works in my house. My son and I are obsessed with the games from Taco Cat Games. We especially love their very popular Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza. I am not kidding when I say every family we've given it to comes back saying the same thing. This game is chaos in the best possible way. It's ridiculously easy to learn, the rounds are super fast, and within about 10 minutes, your living room turns into a laugh until you cannot breathe, slap the table competition. And for ADHD brains, it's perfect. Quick feedback, constant engagement, lots of movement, all the things that keep kids actually interested, which is exactly why I love it for our Screens campaign. Games like this create those tiny moments of connection that reset everyone's brain after a long day of school, homework, and way too much dang screen time. So if you're looking for a 10-minute family reset that actually works, check them out at tacocatgames.com or check them out in the show notes, because sometimes the best way to compete with screens is with doing something even more fun. Welcome back to Chaos and Caffeine, the podcast for parents raising neurodivergent kiddos while surviving on caffeine, coping skills, and pure stubbornness. Today's episode is such an important part of our Screens campaign because we're talking about something ADHD parents desperately need more of: intentional screen time. Because if you're anything like me, you're exhausted from hearing, just take the screens away. Meanwhile, our kids are growing up in a digital world, learning in a digital world, and honestly, for a lot of ADHD kids, technology isn't going anywhere. So instead of asking, how do we eliminate screens completely, maybe the better question is, how do we make screens work for our kids instead of against them? And that's exactly why I wanted to have on Josh Davidson, the creator of Zookeeper. Because this isn't another app built to trap kids in endless dopamine loops while their nervous system slowly unravels before our very eyes. Zookeeper is creative, interactive, and centered around storytelling, imagination, community, and actually engaging kids in a meaningful way. And for ADHD kids especially, that matters. Because so many of our kids struggle with traditional writing and traditional learning. But give them creativity, ownership, and the chance to build their own worlds, phew, suddenly the same kid who says they hate writing is voluntarily creating stories on a screen. That's huge, my friend. So today we're diving into ADHD kids, screens, creativity, learning, and what it looks like to use technology in a healthier, much more intentional way instead of living in constant guilt and power struggles. So grab your emotional support coffee, hide from your kids for maybe 5 minutes, and let's welcome Josh to the mic. Welcome to Chaos and Caffeine, the ADHD parenting podcast where you do not need a degree to understand your kid. I'm Danielle, mom in the trenches who spent years obsessing over how to do this better, so you don't have to learn everything the hard way like I did. Each week, I bring on experts who actually make sense. And then if you want the real story, come hang out with me on Patreon where I break down how it all played out in my house. What worked, what flopped, and what I'm still side-eyeing. Thanks for being here. Josh, welcome to Chaos and Caffeine.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited for this interview because my kid loves apps and we can use all the helpful screen time we can get.
Brilliant, no problem. Yes, well, I'm all about, positive screen time, but also screens doing things that you might not expect them to do. So inspiring offline activities, which, there you go. If we can do that, then I'll be very happy.
Perfect. Do you mind telling our listeners a little bit about you and your journey?
Oh, I would love to. So I'm Josh, and I'm one of the founders and the author of Zookeeper. Now, Zookeeper is a kind of a different educational app, which is very focused on reading and writing skills and making it all, as we say, fantastically fun. But the way we do that is we keep the focus very much on the child and very much on the child's imagination. So that's my journey, that's my passion. I was one of those kids that had a million ideas couldn't wait to tell everybody about them, struggled to write them down. And I think that's quite common for kids, and it can be a real friction point where you're full of ideas and you just don't have that ability to communicate, so you get frustrated with that. So I wanted to build something that would sort of give those kids, one, the confidence to let their creativity shine and to put stuff out there, but two, to show that technology is really just a vehicle for their imaginations, because everything that I saw back when I was started building Zookeeper, which, believe it or not, was like 14 years ago, and I came up with the idea 24 years ago, so it's sort of defined my life. But everything gave kids what I sort of meanly, but I think accurately refer to as preset songs on a keyboard, where you just press one note and then suddenly the song's there and there's no creative process, there's no self-expression in it. And I think, that's been a magic that adults have thought, kids want it like this. I can make it so they can build this bit and this bit, and then they'll have no. That maybe some kids like it, but ultimately what you're doing is stripping away the creative process and this process that gives kids a chance to come up with their own ideas. And we have that expression of be bored and all this sort of stuff. But really, what we say is be bored is we're saying space for them to expand into, for them to create the games, for them to fill it with play, and everything in the digital sphere, which, by the way, comes with incredible opportunities for enhancing creative play, like connecting, my daughter here in the UK with somebody over in the US or someone over in South Africa or Australia, and see it's incredible for what it can do and the way that you can teach. But if it's always putting a barrier between the child and their own imagination, then you've got a problem. So Night Zookeeper exists to give kids that chance to learn in a safe, self-expressive way that is more akin to how I believe a child's brain should develop. It should develop that understanding and love of a love of learning. And for me, a love of learning is a love of your way you think and a love of your ideas. And so, yeah, sorry, you opened the door. You said, Josh, introduce yourself, and I've given you my full manifesto within the first few minutes. But that is, that, as you were risk, that's me.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So I want to come back to the creative aspect, but I can't skip over. You said there was a disconnect from your brain to getting it down on paper. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about that? Because that sounds very familiar in my house.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think this is how everything in life that is hard is rewarding. And we have built a world where it's increasingly difficult to focus on the hard thing to get the ultimate reward. And we're not training ourselves to sit on a task that we're finding difficult. And, that is something that we can use what we have around us to, because this is a forever problem, as I say, it is a forever problem. It was me as a kid. We have certain minds have all these thoughts, all these ideas, and there's such a disconnect between how you're finding your way through that in the essence of your the core idea that you've got in your head. If it's not coming out how you want it to, you can give up really easily, because you can feel, this is not at all what I wanted to say, and this isn't who I am. And so you find yourself frustrated. And when you're frustrated, you can stop. And when you stop, it's just a hit to your confidence. And that you don't want to happen. So how do you stop that happening? Well, back delicately, you have to say, do a little bit. Oh, that's amazing. Keep going. And what else could you do? And how could you build upon that? And it doesn't matter if that big idea isn't fully rendered straight away, because you're building to it, but you still have the skills to decide what that is. You still have that core idea is still the goal you're chasing. And I feel like we're starting to get there it's this wonderful contradiction in everything that I'm saying. But if you have a plain piece of paper, it terrifies a kid. And it's the plain piece of paper is what I want, right? That's what I want because I want them to express themselves fully. Because if you put something that's not a plain piece of paper, then you've guided them. But you have to get there. But as long as you know that's the goal, then everything that you do to get there is okay. So, for example, we have character creation on zookeeper.com. It's the first activity. And some parents might look at this and go, this was an education website. Why is my kid drawing an animal? Because we've said to the kid, sometimes it's easier to start with drawing. Sometimes it's easier to just sort of get something together. Okay, so now you've got that. Let's give it a name. Okay, so now the kid's racing ahead, right? Sometimes they're like, oh my goodness, and I've decided they speak 16 languages and they have 20 superpowers and they could tell you all these things about it. But we're just going to ask them that one question at a time. And then we're going to slowly build up the amount that they have to write into the program about those skills. So you're building to the point that when they get to their first blank page, it's not a blank page anymore because they've already scaffolded all of their own ideas. So it's already in there, they've written it, and they've started to overcome some of the barrier between here's everything that I could tell you and here's the bits that are the components of that. Sorry, that was again a very rambling answer, but hopefully that cuts to the core of it.
Yeah. So when you mentioned we want kids to be bored, but what we're actually saying is go be creative, that hits home for me because I will take my kid's devices until he has done his chores. And in a matter of minutes, he has created like a whole science experiment. He's outside, he's doing the things. And I'm like, yes, although our chores are still not completed. But you have seemed to take the things that he loves the most, that genius space of creating the project and rolling with it with his other favorite thing, which is screens. And I think that is magical.
Good.
Magical.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, no, I think it was needed in the world. And I keep on thinking, oh, somebody else is going to come along and do this. But it turns out no. More and more programs launch with the same basic mistake, I think, which is that they just take all of the initiative away from the child. They just say, oh, we're the educators and you will learn in this way and follow this path and you can pick from 4 of these different hats to represent you inside the program. Yeah, you need to give the kid, put them in charge because it dials up the engagement. And if you're into science, that doesn't mean the wonderful thing about teaching reading and writing, learn about reading and writing through science. That is the wonderful thing. And so although we're Night Zookeeper, that is one theme, and the kids bring their own themes. They bring their own things that they're interested in to the program, because if they want to create a dinosaur, and because they've learned the full history of a particular species of dinosaur and they want to tell us all about that in the character that they're uploading, we see that. That's wonderful. That's them expressing themselves and what they're interested in, and they're still learning to read and write through that topic. So I think that's that's the key to good education.
So we drop in, they create their avatar, and tell me about the rest of the program.
Yeah, so yeah, they do character creation, and that they can do that every time. Actually, they start a new quest, we call them. So the quests run across the whole reading and writing curriculum, and we're giving them through the structured learning, the hitting the curriculum beats to build their skills and their confidence, and they will work through that as they play the game. So that's gamified. It's using all of the things that the reason they love screens, because they're very good at pushing them through. It does that. It rewards them for going through the learning. But that only ever lasts so long. And most of it is, it's a new language that this generation understands around gaming. And for us, that's 30% of Night Zookeeper. The real Night Zookeeper is the community. So the kids that are going through this curriculum, building their skills, we ask them to write stories about those characters. We ask them to write newspaper articles about those characters. We ask them to write poetry about something else, like, whatever the topic of the day is. We're drawing output. So it's not just constantly, as I said, us telling them what to learn and what to do. We are asking open-ended questions and checking to see if they can bring their choice to the activity that they do, because then they contribute to the community. So we have a weekly competition, for example, called Star Writing. And Star Writing has a topic every given week. And you come in, you hear the topic, you're asked to write a poem or a story or a report about something. Once you've finished writing your story, you get to pick a star, and then we put the star in a sky. So you can see your star, and you can see all of the other kids' stars everywhere. And you can go around and look. And because we're moderated by teachers and tutors, it's all lovely, safe content that kids are creating for other kids to read. And you can see it, and you can feel part of this community of kids that have unleashed their creativity into the platform. And that, forget about, bing, 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 award, celebration. That's not why kids stick around long term and decide that they love it. They love it when they first get a comment from Jessica from New York saying, "This is the best story I've read all week," or one of our tutors saying, "You've really inspired me here. Have you thought about what else could happen to this character the next time they go on an adventure?" Or whatever it is, it's bringing the reason that we learn, the reason that we write and communicate in general, because we want to connect with other human beings. And that is, as I say, 70% of why we have a community and we have a business, is because kids have seen that there's a reason to work through the curriculum, because they're going to be able to write better and better things. They're going to get that fantastic connection to other kids who want to do the same thing, want to grow up into adults that have skills that are useful for connecting with other people.
Yeah, very nice. I do feel like, I'm sure this is in my head mostly, that my kid does enjoy screen time. We are totally addicted, but that part where his friends are online with him is always his favorite part. So I think you're onto something there. Yeah.
That is the bit. And, that's every game, for example, we have learning games on the platform, and, whether it's hopping between, the correct prefix or suffix of a particular word, whatever's foundational, real at the core of the curriculum stuff you're doing that with other Night Zookeepers, and they're hopping onto those words and picking those things with you. So you're connected. And that, that's why we play. We love playing with friends and learning together. So yeah, I think that's a really important part of how we set up Night Zoo.
So you've mentioned reading and writing. What other topics are we covering?
I mean, that is our core. That is what we do. We have, a focus on that because I guess our core objective as a company is to make every kid creative and confident. So anything from Night Zookeeper is about that. And then that reading and writing is the key sort of educational component that we believe kids need to be able to be those creative, confident individuals. And so our job is to make that as fun and engaging as it can be. So I'm not saying there will never be a Night Zookeeper maths or anything like that, but that would be it would be if we could do that in a way that was making kids more creative and confident. And that is our North Star, if you like. That's what we're always trying to do.
If you're parenting an ADHD kid, you already know the phrase, "just take a deep breath," usually lands about as well as a Lego to the heel. That's why I've been loving Moonbird and their kid-friendly version, Moon Buddy. Instead of telling our kids to calm down while they're emotionally feral and breathing like tiny caffeinated raccoons, this little handheld breathing coach actually guides them through it physically. It expands and contracts in their hands so they can follow along without staring at another screen, which honestly feels revolutionary in 2026. And here's the thing I didn't expect. it's not just for kids. Because apparently, ADHD parents also deserve nervous systems that aren't running a constant browser with 47 tabs open and one playing panic music in the background. The adult version helps with stress, anxiety, sleep, and that I've been doom scrolling for 2 hours and forgot to blink feeling. It's screen-free, tactile, weirdly soothing, and honestly one of the first calming tools that doesn't feel like another chore. Check them out in the show notes to save 10%, or you can find them at moonbird.w. Can we talk about the quiet gaps screens have created? Our kids can build entire digital worlds, but struggle to read the room in the real one. And no, this isn't about demonizing screens. They're not evil, but they are passive. Social skills, executive functioning, those are not passive. They're built, practiced, strengthened. That's why I love social thinking, because this isn't just be nice advice. It teaches kids how social communication actually works, how to notice what others are thinking, manage impulses, join conversations appropriately, and respond instead of react. And here's the part parents don't always realize. It also builds executive functioning, organization, flexible thinking, time management, problem solving. These are classroom survival skills, friendship skills, life skills. If screens have taken some of those practice reps, we can build them back intentionally. Check out social thinking in the show notes, and let's raise kids who can navigate people and not just platforms. Are you tired of being the screen police? The constant negotiation, nagging, and fights over screen time? Girl, it's so exhausting. 2 frustrated ADHD parents who experienced the problem firsthand have created a solution that actually works. Screen Coach is a time management app that rewards good habits. Kids can earn their screen time by doing activities set by you, chores, homework, even brushing their teeth. You can allocate times for kids to access certain apps only or block all apps. Once it's set up, you can relax. There's no sneaky workarounds. Endorsed by psychologists, Screen Coach enforces those routines that help ADHD kids and parents thrive. They offer a free 30-day trial, and because you're part of the Chaos fam, you can even get a 5% discount after the trial. You can head to myscreencoach.com/chaos or click the link in the description and start building healthy habits for life. Got you. So you mentioned the science part, but I guess that is a part of their writing.
Exactly. They're bringing that
creative.
in. They're bringing that in because that's that exactly. You write reports, you can write articles, you can write on anything. It's like a word processor basically, but with more scaffolding and more help. And you have your community. So if you've gone to the library and you've picked up a book on autumnal flowers and you've decided that autumnal flowers are interesting to you and you want to write a series of articles about for your readers, I guarantee if you do that as a child, there will be another kid on Night Zookeeper that says, this was the most interesting thing I've ever read all day. And they will send you a comment and you're like, oh, amazing. But that's, that is how human beings work. We are interested in what other human beings have to say and we connect with them. So yeah, that's what I meant, I guess, by the science side. Yeah. Whatever you want to write about will help you build the skills so that you can write about it with confidence, and then you can become part of that community.
I'm not sure if this is an ADHD thing or not, but it seems like with most of the kids that I have in my life, it is a reading and writing issue. And I've often thought that the ADHD brain can figure out the math very quickly, but sitting down to read or write is like painstakingly challenging for my kid and the other kiddos that I know on the spectrum.
I also think, computers are made of maths, right? Like that is the truth. And for the last 20 years of, the IT revolution, there has been a million gamified maths programs. You could find a maths program on anything because you have right and wrong, and you have, so it's so easy. It's a game. A game is a maths. We've had to throw everything but the kitchen sink at persuading kids to write. We have a TV show. We have a theme song. We have book series. We are telling the kids, immerse yourself in this world, and maybe maybe then they'll write
Yeah.
a few words to get going, to begin to understand, and then we'll give them a tutor comment, and then we'll introduce them to a community of other kids. You need that sort of service to turn that reluctant writer into to give them the reason, because as I said, our world is not set up for, delayed reward. Everything is instant gratification. Did you get that sum right? Yes. Bing! You've just overtaken your friend. You're doing, yeah, it's proper reading and
Yeah.
writing. That is not how it works. You can have reading comprehension and things, then you can get spelling games, and there's enough in there that is foundational, but you're not going to end up with a good communicator at the end of that, what you would call a fluent communicator at the end of that, that understands emotion in their communication and how to bring that and all those ideas, like we said, all of that person to life through language,
Yeah.
the languages we've designed. That is the most you can do to invest in your kid. We've always said it, and more and more research comes out, like give your kid 20 minutes of your time, full attention all day, so that they can tell you who they are and what they're interested in and play that game with them. And that's very hard for a modern parent, but at least Night Zookeeper functions like that, as in it will listen to the kid and let the kid direct, and that's them getting some time for them, and some focus on where they want to go.
I didn't even think about that we have tried many of the reading and phonic apps out there in our past. And even though he may have been learning phonics or letter recognition, he did not have the community aspect to make it stick. I've never considered that until just now.
Yeah, as I said, I think it's very easy to make, from an adult perspective, something that follows that classic educational curriculum. Of a kid must know this, but that is not how most kids, forget ADHD diagnosis or anything. Like, most kids' brains do not function in that same organized, we do this, do this, within a learning
Yeah.
space. They're going to want to play. They're going to want to pull this and pull that together. And then they're going to want to feel that what they're doing is part of something that matters, because we've spent too long, and there's been initiatives throughout my life that I've noticed where we've said kids are important, but they're not taken as seriously as they should be in most products that are designed for them. They are the users. They're not the co-creators. They're not the collaborators in the thing that emerges.
Yeah. Ooh, that is good. So dopamine is having her moment. And even my 11-year-old was like, Mom, that's not good dopamine. And I was like, how do you know what that means? So in most apps, like you said, it is the achieving the thing, you get the star, you're number one on the leaderboard. And Night Zookeeper, it sounds like it's a little different in that it could be the dopamine is coming from the feedback, or is there other ways in there where our kids are like, hey, this is the thing, I'm sticking
Oh,
around?
we have it
Yeah.
all. We have it all. We have the stars, we have the trumpets, we have a leaderboard of effort, not quality, but of effort, to see how often you're working on the, because every kid is different, that's the truth. And your child may not be interested in a leaderboard, but there is plenty of children who are interested in a leaderboard, but then they might not be interested in the other part.
Mm.
Again, that kitchen sink, you need to find a way of giving the kids all of these fun things and letting them loose. But what I've seen in the data and the conversations that I've had with families is that the kids that have really, really stuck around and really transformed are the ones that have taken that step to participate in the community and to start entering that star writing competition or writing on a topic that's interesting to them. I saw an amazing thing the other day. We have a Google alert set up, and we had a story come through from somewhere in the US where a local TV station had gone down to like a 12-year-old's house, and that 12-year-old had just published 5 or 6 books, or their sixth book or something. And they were like, we've got a 12-year-old here who's a published author who's written 6 books. And that was the most British accent ever for an American news journalist, but you know what I was trying to do. Um, and and the kid during this interview, they're asked, like, oh, so when did you start writing? And they said in this most wonderfully dismissive way, well, I started on Night Zookeeper, but now I write on Google Docs. But I was like, I loved it. I love how dismissive, because they're now at this level, and because kids just come onto Night Zookeeper, they write their first chapter, then they write the second chapter, and they've got their own little story that they're building, and they've got their friends that are saying, oh, this is wonderful. And they're encouraged to go on to that. And then they do want to take it very seriously and become this published author and all those things. Oh, that was the dream, and it happened completely randomly, just a random alert, no PR agency or anything like that trying to make that. Probably should have hired one to try and get that news out more,
Yeah.
but it was one of those just like, clench the heart. That's exactly what we wanted. And as I say, I quite like that she was so dismissive, because she turned herself into a proper author now, and she was doing all these things. But you have to start, you have to start somewhere. Yeah.
So me and the kid have, okay, let me back up. I have come up with all of these ideas for us to do over summer break. He is begrudgingly going along with me. So
Okay.
I would love for one of those to be explore writing through Night Zookeeper, because the whole goal of our summer is to find something that you like. I've threw out cooking classes or all of that, and he's like, I don't like to do that, but you don't know because you haven't tried. So, I mean, that sounds magical. Like, what if writing is your thing? And he's like, Mom, I don't even like reading, so how could writing be my thing? But what if we haven't
What
tried
if?
it?
What if?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we give, parents of the extreme reluctant writers we've given them various candies over the years. The first was the books. So when I was writing the series, if you wanted to say to your kid, you could get an idea in one of the Night Zookeeper books, you come up with a character, it might turn up in the book, or write a joke and it might. So we did that, and that got a whole bunch of kids in. But of course, once a book's written, it's there. Then we made a TV show, and we had the kids coming up with characters and locations and props and all kinds of things to co-create that with us. So the kids on the website got to co-create the TV show. But again, once the TV show's there, it's made, the next generation can't remake that show. But we're going to make a game. So we're making a Night Zookeeper video game, which should come out towards the end of the year. And that, again, is going to be co-created with all the kids on Night Zookeeper. So if you've got a kid like, I don't want to get on a writing program, you can send your ideas in. They could end up in a video game. Like that is parents just, they need this. I know as a parent of a kid who won't touch broccoli, I get it, like it's that. You're always looking for that carrot that to sort of draw them in and get them to do the thing. So if you look at Night Zookeeper, we're not makewritingfun.com, we're nightzookeeper.com. We're a genuine game, a genuine place where you go on and you have fun and you co-create with the community. This is in and of itself a platform that kids, when they type nightzookeeper.com in, they get it. They're going to play a game. They're not going on there to, as I said, to make writing fun and work through your literacy curriculum. That's not language arts curriculum. So, that's all part of the proposal from us. It's a harder thing to market, because if you imagine on Google, everyone types in how to make writing fun. Then you're going to go to websites, howtomakewritingfun.com. You need to know about Night Zookeeper. You need to be in the know, because we're all in it together with the parents saying, this is an early educational game. But nudge, nudge, wink, wink. It's still good for your kids. But they're going to, so that is part of the, it's part of the challenge, but it's part of why it works.
Yeah. So it's nightzookeeper.com. Is that where we're going?
That's it. That's where we're going. Yes, please. When summer starts, get onto nightzookeeper.com. You get a free trial. You can try it out, make your first character. I do suggest that first character is done with the parent there. You can do it. You can do it, say, oh, just try this out and sit them. Obviously, you know your relationship with your child and how they like to do things. But if you're there for the co-creation of their first character and you can see how their ideas are sparking and even sort of just help them through those first answers about their character,
Yeah.
that 15 minutes investment in your time will, become months and months of learning, which you don't even have to be involved in really, because the program will drive it. And the kid has decided that they care enough about that character. And I like to say, the the dinner conversations that you can have as a result of that, once you know what your kids created and their interest, what others you could sit around, having your tea and saying, oh, so what did you write about, you know, the kangaroo bear today or whatever they've invented, and then, oh, kangaroo bear's going to the moon, mummy. Oh, brilliant, and then you start this conversation and you're in their imagination, you're storytelling around the dinner table and you're interested in what they're coming up with. And if you know that bit, and obviously there's a dashboard that you can log in anytime on your phone or your computer and see what they've been creating. But yeah, sharing that first creative moment that then sparks a million creative moments from the kid just makes them invest that much more in the platform.
You read my mind because I have an 11-year-old who is a tween. He wants to be referred to. And the only thing that came to my mind when you said to create the character together was that will give me something to talk to him about.
Right, exactly. You get that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's also a wonderful sibling activity, by the way, because if you have like a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old or whatever, you can have quite big age gaps, but they're both creating characters. So you get this wonderful unifying thing that suddenly they can, well, whatever they've created kind of works in the same universe, right? It doesn't matter if the younger kid hasn't written as much or hasn't been able to personalize it quite at the same level as the 10-year-old. They're all both doing the same activity in this creative and inherently creative activity. And then they're introduced to the same games, but one's more simplified, one's more complicated for the older child. It's a lovely way. We've seen this when I have gone into schools as well, where you've got the youngest kids and the older kids in the playground at lunchtime talking about, the same thing. It's like, what? That never happens. But that's exactly what that sort of creative activity can do.
Very cool. So I wanted to end with what is your greatest night zookeeper moment, but I think you've already told me with the very
Yeah,
dismissive girl who's now an
probably
author.
was actually. Yeah, that was a really special moment.
Anything else that sticks out on your journey?
Oof. I've been very lucky. I think probably the main joy of making this such a big part of my life has been the fact that we get that regular parent and child story about my kid hated writing, couldn't get anything out, would scream at I mean, now I relate to it even more because I know how loud those screams can be. But those transformation stories, that's why it's not necessarily why I set out to create it, but it's been the greatest joy that's come from it. I didn't realize that it would be such a battle for some kids to get on and do this kind of activity. I wanted to give them a platform to create and inspire them to tell them their ideas matter. But yeah, and now to see the extent of the problem that we have with reading and writing, and the fact that this exists as a solution, not for everyone, but hopefully for many families, a solution to break that down. And you don't even have to read the Night Zookeeper book series, as much as obviously I would love you to. But it would be the spark, right? To then, so many parents love so many books and they just want their kids to read the books that they loved and have that same feeling. And it's so hard in this world to get them into the writing and into the reading. This again has done that. Like it's changed a child's mind about reading and writing and brought them into that universe, which, how do you persuade a kid that the most immersive entertainment in the world is sitting and reading more than 3 pages of a book? That's they can't believe it. Of course they can't believe it in the screen era with virtual reality. No, actually, we're humans. We're built a certain way. This is more powerful than anything on your phone or in your tablet. If you sit and you've trained yourself to the level that you can read a book and go 3 pages deep, and you're just reading on that kind of autopilot at that level, you're going to have a more incredible experience than any video game you can imagine. It's very hard to persuade a kid that that is the truth. But yeah, if we're just one of the footsteps in that path to a kid trying that, then I'll be very happy.
I think you've done an amazing job of filling the gap, of seeing the need, of seeing all of our kids with phones in their hands instead of books, and then making the transition to make that fun on the screen. I think that is wonderful. Josh, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. I've enjoyed it so much.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry for my long waffling answers.
When I started an ADHD podcast, I knew it would never be linear. So you're perfectly in good company here.
I'm in the company. Absolutely. Good.
I think this episode was such an important reminder that all screen time is not created equal. Because throughout this entire screens campaign, one thing keeps becoming clearer and clearer. There's a massive difference between screens that leave our kids overstimulated and emotionally fried, and screens that actually encourage creativity, curiosity, confidence, learning, and community. That's what I really appreciate about Night Zookeeper. This isn't just passive scrolling or endless content consumption. It's kids creating, imagining, storytelling, and actually engaging their brains in a completely different way. And for our kids, especially, that matters. Because most of us are not trying to raise our kids on iPads all day. We're just trying to survive modern parenting in a digital world while making thoughtful choices where we can. And maybe intentional matters more than perfect. Huge thank you to Josh for joining us today and creating something that genuinely feels different in the educational tech space. You can check out Night Zookeeper in the show notes. While you're there, be sure to like, leave me a comment, and let me know what hit hard for you. Subscribe so you don't miss any more of the Screens campaign, but so much more importantly, I need you to share this with your ADHD parenting bestie who just slammed her kid's iPad against the living room wall. That's it for this week on Chaos and Caffeine. I'm Danielle, and I'll see you back here next week, emotional support coffee in hand. If you're a parent in the neurodivergent world, you already know this. We read labels like it's our second job. We side-eye ingredients, we Google brands at midnight, and we're constantly looking for support options that feel intentional and not sketchy. That's one of the reasons so many families, including my own, trust Mary Ruth Organics. Their supplements come in easy-to-take liquid drops, which honestly matters when pills are a hard no. The flavors are kid-friendly, the formulas are vegan, Clean Label Project certified, and the company itself is a B Corp, which means they actually care about what goes into their products and how they operate. Mary Ruth's doesn't promise miracles, and neither do we. What they offer is thoughtfully made, high-quality supplements that fit into real family routines without added stress. If you're looking for a brand that prioritizes transparency, clean ingredients, and making supplements easier for kids and parents alike, Mary Ruth Organics is one worth checking out. Because supporting our kids starts with choosing products we actually feel good about giving them.